until a day or two ago that I realized that it's Prabhupada's appearance day, and then I realized that it's the day after Janmashtami. So forgive me if I for any shortcomings on my part. I went to bed at 2:30 yesterday after Janmashtami festivities, and now we're here. So we'll just start by chanting Jai Radha Madhava, and we can really think about Srila Prabhupada and his he would chant Jai Radha Madhava with such intensity, and there are various stories of devotees experiencing Srila Prabhupada to go into his own deep ecstasies while chanting Radha Madhava. There are stories of devotees observing this in various ways, and Srila Prabhupada would withhold these ecstasies from his followers and people in general, but sometimes it would just overflow to the point where he couldn't contain it. My own spiritual master, His Holiness Radhanath Swami, tells a story in the journey home of him traveling throughout India looking for a guru, trying to find his path to God. And even after meeting Srila Prabhupada, it took a little while for him to come to the point of surrender, and that point of surrender came while he was listening to Srila Prabhupada chant Jai Radha Madhava in Vrindavan, and he heard him chant with such devotion. And so there was something very powerful about this song that Srila Prabhupada felt, where he poured himself into it very deeply. And so it's a very, very beautiful song, and this is the song that he chose to sing before Srila Bhagavatam classes. So we'll sing this song, meditating on Srila Prabhupada's depth of devotion, as well as the gift he gave for us to even have access to the idea of Krishna's pastimes. So. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Jaya Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Jaya Girivadadari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri Radha Murli Dar ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Tagore Premanande. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Samsajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Begging for blessings and prayers from all the devotees here that we may be able to experience something profound and meaningful from Srimad Bhagavatam, and that we may also be able to appreciate even one small fraction of the wonderful glories of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. So, let's go ahead and read. So we are in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I was asked by the dutifully devotional and dedicated Amrita Kishori about the verses that we are today, and that we should keep the thread of our class by at least reading the verses from Bhagavatam, and then from there we can segue of how we can appreciate and acknowledge and glorify Srila Prabhupada. So we're in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 69th chapter, verses 34, 35, and 36. So I'll share my screen as we go there. Okay, Hare Krishna. Yajantam sakalam devan krvapi kratubir urjitaha purtayantam kvachid dharman kurparama mata dibi. Somewhere he was worshipping all the demigods with elaborate sacrifices, and elsewhere he was fulfilling his religious obligations by doing public welfare work, such as the construction of wells, public parks, and monasteries. So this section of Bhagavatam, those who have been attending class will remember, and those just joining now can be aware that this is the section where Narada Muni visits Krishna in Dwarka. So Krishna had just liberated all of these prisoners who were kept by one specific tyrant that Krishna came to conquer, and these devotees were liberated, and he married 16,108 queens. And Narada Muni was astonished to hear this and wanted to go see how such a thing was possible and to observe Krishna and how was it possible for him to do such a feat. And when he got there, he met Krishna, and Krishna was with Rukmini, and Rukmini was personally serving Krishna, despite the fact of having unlimited maidservants in attendance to do whatever type of service was needed. She personally felt such a desire to engage in Krishna's direct service. And it reminds me of when I was a young brahmachari living in the Laguna Beach temple. My main service was taking care of the kitchen. So I cooked all the offerings, I cooked all the feasts and the festivals, and I was in charge of keeping the kitchen clean. And one visiting Vanapras, devotee, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, asked me what my service was. He was visiting. And I said, I cook and I clean. And he said, wow, that's amazing. That's what the residents of Vrindavan do. The residents of Vrindavan are cleaning, even though nothing in the spiritual world ever gets dirty. How are they cleaning? How do the residents of Vrindavan clean when nothing in Vrindavan ever gets dirty? He said they're just looking for excuses to be in contact with Krishna through service. Right? There's a pot, like, let me clean this pot. The pot's not dirty. Well, let me just clean it anyways. You know, it's Krishna's pot. Let me just give me an excuse to do some service for Krishna. And so we find exemplified in Krishna's pastimes here in the 10th canto, whether it's in Vrindavan, whether it's in Dwarka, devotees are looking for a reason to be connected to Krishna through service. And sometimes we think our service has to have a certain level of impact and has to be profound on a particular level, has to be meaningful. Like, I don't want to do that service, I want to do this service. And the reality is that in the highest levels of devotion in the spiritual world, that Krishna's devotees, Rukmini herself, is finding ways that she can serve Krishna. Even somebody else could do it. No, I want to be able to do this service. Srila Prabhupada would tell the story of an old, not tell the story, there was a story told of devotees when they were with Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan, and there was an old lady who would go, and her service was to go to the Yamuna and fetch a bucket of water and bring it back to her temple in order to serve the deity with that water. And one of Srila Prabhupada's young disciples, who was strong and had energy, saw this lady struggling and thought, let me help her. Let me help her. And he tried to carry the bucket of water for her. And this woman just turned like another level, a gear of energy kicked in, and she was wrestling this bucket back from this young devotee, like, do take my bucket of water. And the devotee was like, let me help you. And the devotees were bewildered. And Prabhupada said, let her keep it. He said, don't take her service. She's protecting her service. She's protecting her service. We see an old lady struggling to carry a bucket of water. She's seeing, this is my opportunity to perform some service for my most dearly beloved. So this is the mood of Vrindavan. This is the mood that Rukmini is carrying in Dwarka. And so Narada Muni sees this, and he's very intrigued and inspired. And then he goes to another palace, and he sees that Krishna's doing something else with a different queen. And he goes from palace to palace to palace, and he's seeing that Krishna himself is there. Krishna himself is there doing something different with each of his queens of Dwarka. And he's astounded. And he's observing all of these things. So this whole string of verses is Krishna doing something different in different places with his queen. So here, somewhere he was worshiping all the demigods with elaborate sacrifices, and elsewhere he was fulfilling his religious obligations by doing public welfare work, such as the construction of wells, public parks, and monasteries. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions how he himself even engages in prescribed duties in order to set an example for other people. So Krishna sometimes is seemingly performing the mundane activities that we perform, but it's on a totally different platform. One is A, to set an example for us, and B, to experience the rasa of loving exchange with his devotees while doing these things. Not because he has to, not because he owes the demigod something, or because he feels a need to do something of this nature, but it's to elaborate the exchange of love with his devotees. That's text 34. Text 35. Charantam mrigayam kvapi hayam aruhasan saindavam grantam tatra pashun medyan baritam yadu pungavai. This is a very interesting verse. In another place, he was on a hunting expedition. Mounted on his Sindhi horse and accompanied by the most heroic of sadhus, he was killing animals meant for offering and sacrifice. Purport. Srila Prabhupada comments, according to Vedic regulations, the Kshatriyas were allowed to kill prescribed animals on certain occasions, either to maintain peace in the forests or to offer the animals in the sacrificial fire. Kshatriyas are allowed to practice this killing art because they have to kill their enemies mercilessly to maintain peace in society. So some thousands of years ago, there was this allowance to create some sort of balance and peace to be able to protect citizens from animals, as well as for Kshatriyas to be able to prepare for battle. They would battle with animals. Hare Krishna. Text 36. Avyaktalingam prakritva antapura grihadishu kvachikcharantam yogesham tattatbhava bubutsaya. Somewhere Krishna, the Lord of mystic powers, moving about in disguise among the home of ministers and other citizens in order to understand what each of them was thinking. Although Lord Krishna is all-knowing, while executing his pastimes as a typical monarch, he sometimes traveled about incognito to acquire necessary information about his kingdom. Hare Krishna. So, again, Krishna is manifesting an extraordinary potency of expanding himself in such a way to interact and reciprocate with the loving sentiment of each and every one of his queens in Dwarka. He also manifests this potency in Vrindavan during the Rasa dance, or when he's having lunch with his Gopa friends, and he gazes upon them, and each and every one of them feels that Krishna is dancing with just me. Krishna is sharing his lunch somehow with just me. And it doesn't invoke a sense of, like, it invokes this amazing sense of wonder and gratitude in the hearts of the residents of Vrindavan. Like, I don't get it. Krishna, for some reason, is just honing in on me, right? He has this potency and has this quality, right? And we find that also the spiritual master can have this quality as well. That Srila Prabhupada had this extreme potency to, many people would describe that Srila Prabhupada in his presence is as if he's looking right through them. And he's seeing them on the deepest level. And he's reciprocating with each of his disciples in a way that is congruent with their love and their approach to him. So many people would see Srila Prabhupada in very different lights and in very different ways. Some people would see Srila Prabhupada. Shamasundar Prabhu would say sometimes that Srila Prabhupada would never chastise him or get too angry because he said he knows I couldn't handle it. At other times, there's moments where Srila Prabhupada would experience and demonstrate tremendous anger or frustration towards his disciples. Srila Prabhupada would make different statements and he would say different things that devotees hold on to in different ways. And people experience Prabhupada in different ways according to their psychophysical nature and mentality, right? We say vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desired trees and can fulfill the hearts of everyone. So pure devotee is like a desire tree, right? What do you get when you pick the fruit of a desire tree? Whatever's on your heart, whatever you're looking for. Srimad Bhagavatam is also described to be like the desire tree of Vedic literature. And just like in the Vedas or Vedic literatures, we have this saying, different shlokas for different folks. You can find a verse to justify any point of view if you really wanted to. Right? Just because there's a verse that somehow seemingly seems to substantiate your point doesn't mean that there might be another verse that might substantiate just the opposite. And similarly with Srila Prabhupada, you could probably find a story or a letter or a statement somewhere that might substantiate your point of view if that's what you're looking for, right? But a desire tree also has its own fruit. That what happens if you come to a desire tree without any particular desire or motivation in return? what fruit does it have to give you? And when we are able to look beyond that and see the tremendous fruit and the gift that Srila Prabhupada was coming to give us, it's really, really astounding. And so we can appreciate all of these different facets of Srila Prabhupada with his devotees. And at the same time, we can look into the heart of Srila Prabhupada as a person and understand what he was trying to give us. One of my favorite verses and purports from Srimad Bhagavatam that I wanted to look at as well is from the first canto, 5th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now keep in mind that Srila Prabhupada wrote this when he was still in India, before he came to America, before he knew he would have any disciples, before he had a ticket on the Jaladuta. There was a copy of this book that Srila Prabhupada brought with him as he was boarding the ship coming to America. So Srila Prabhupada wrote this without any Western disciples, without any followers, without any traction, without any sense of where his movement was going. And he was translating this first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 5th chapter, Narada Muni is explaining to Vyasadeva about Vyasadev's own despondency. That Vyasadeva himself was trying to respond to the desires of so many devotees throughout history and time, to try to give them something to hold on to kind of like roundabout way offer the deep essential gift of Krishna Bhakti. And so he wrote the various Vedas and the Upanishads and the storytellings of the Mahabharata and the Puranas, etc. And he was feeling, I haven't really given the essence. He really wasn't sure what was going on. And Narada Muni showed up and he mentioned, you haven't really given the essence. And then he shares this verse. He shares this verse that Srila Prabhupada translates so beautifully. And in his purport, he speaks so honestly. It's from the first canto, 5th chapter, verse 11. Tadvad visargo janataga viplabo yasmin pratishlokam abhadavatyapi namanyan tasya yasun nikitaniyat shinvanti gayante grinati sadava. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of the descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impasse lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Right? And Srila Prabhupada takes this time to translate this meaning of what it means to be thoroughly honest. Right? And so it's a really beautiful purport, but we're going to skip down. And we're going to go to Srila Prabhupada's purport. And so Srila Prabhupada speaking about wanting to share this message of the Bhagavat. And kind of put yourself a little in Prabhupada's shoes. Think, Srila Prabhupada is in Vrindavan in the Radha Damodar temple. He has no money. He has taken sannyas and no longer has a family, no longer has a job or an occupation. He's a wandering sadhu, begging money on the streets of Vrindavan for 5 paisa so that he can sell a Back to Godhead magazine in order to buy paper to publish the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna's not making it easy on him. He's getting gored by a bull, right? He's experiencing so much challenge and tribulation. He's living so simply in these rooms at the lotus feet of Radha Damodar, meditating so deeply on the message that his spiritual master gave him to share this message with the entire world. And later, contemporaries of the time would remember this old sadhu sweeping the steps at the Radha Damodar temple, crying, praying for the mercy of Rupa Goswami, saying, my spiritual master has given me an impossible mission. And in this mood and in this space, Srila Prabhupada is taking residence in his rooms at Radha Damodar Temple, and he's translating and commenting on Srimad Bhagavatam. He hasn't met a single Western disciple. He's never heard of the address 26 Avenue. He doesn't know what the Bowery is. He doesn't know who hippies are. He's not Google searching ahead of time to, learn about the history and culture of New York City, Lower East Side. No, there's no history book for him to study to understand what he's walking into. He has no idea. And when you read this purport, you also very much see that Srila Prabhupada's initial strategy was to preach to the leaders in higher echelons of society, right? From the verse from Bhagavad Gita that whatever a leader of society does, the common people follow. That was Srila Prabhupada's strategy, but it didn't work initially. People weren't listening. He was on the Upper West Side and unable to build an audience, unable to secure the building that had come to him. And he found his way on the Bowery in the Lower East Side of New York City, preaching to drug addicts and social dropouts. That was his audience. That ignited his entire movement, and this is why we're here today. So Srila Prabhupada's in this space in Radha Damodar Temple, writing and translating, hearing Srila Vyasadeva's despondency, hearing the narrations of Narada Muni, and meditating on the power of Krishna Katha. Right? So he says, therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is a duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world, to do all the supermost good as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world. Because India has failed in her duty by neglecting the responsible work, there's so much core trouble all over the world. Srila Prabhupada speaking because he hasn't left India yet. He's speaking and writing to the Indian population, trying to gain some traction, and he hasn't gotten it yet. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart, then naturally the people in general will follow. So this was Srila Prabhupada's initial plan. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there's a change of heart in the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. Again, Srila Prabhupada had no idea what he was walking into. Srila Prabhupada was asked by a reporter, what is your miracle? Can you perform miracles? Can you turn bell metal into gold? And Srila Prabhupada said, I have turned hippies into happies. And then a reporter said, what's a hippie? And Srila Prabhupada said, you know better than me. Something extraordinary. Right? Something extraordinary. Srila Prabhupada was in Australia and he installed deities there, Radha Krishna deities. And in order to worship deities, you need brahmanas. And there were no brahmanas. So Prabhupada made brahmanas by giving them initiation. Now today we have so many standards, and you have to be chanting 16 rounds for so many years and following the principles and take your Bhakti Shastri and get your letters of recommendation and all of these things in order to take first initiation and second initiation. Then Srila Prabhupada was like, we need brahmanas. You. You're getting initiation today. And then as Srila Prabhupada was leaving, he was praying to Radha and Krishna, the deities. He was saying, I'm turning you over to the hands of these unqualified people. I cannot take responsibility moving forward. You must instruct and empower them to take care of you. Srila Prabhupada was pushing the boundaries of what was orthodox in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition in order to somehow bring people closer to Krishna's lotus feet. So he goes on. We know that our honest attempt, and this is the part that's so moving, to present this great literature conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail. And there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. Before Srila Prabhupada even met any of his Western disciples, before he had any news interviews, before any of his radical statements or things that we take out of context or things that we don't understand or things that just seem inflammatory, before, and Srila Prabhupada is just saying, listen guys, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm trusting in the transcendental nature of Krishna's message. And when we read statements like Krishna's out hunting animals with his queens that we just read from Srimad Bhagavatam, or we hear Srila Prabhupada make other statements, he's recognizing that, there is going to be a gap in my own ability to convey things in a way that is quote-unquote perfect. Srila Prabhupada is quoted as saying that a spiritual master never commits any mistakes. He's on a morning walk and he's talking about spiritual master never commits any mistakes. And devotees like, Jai Prabhupada, spiritual master is perfect. And here Srila Prabhupada himself is just saying, I'm trying to translate this transcendental message that's not even in my mother tongue. Certainly we will fail. There'll be so many literary discrepancies. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. When there is a fire in a house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. If the technique of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success. And this in many ways is why I believe Srila Prabhupada shared at the end of his time here on earth that we can show our love for him by how we cooperate with each other. The entirety of Srimad Bhagavatam, even the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the stories of Vrindavan, is Krishna's devotees putting in situations of extreme distress. All the way at the beginning of Parikshit Maharaj, finding himself in a situation of extreme duress, right? To the stories of Devahuti, who was Kardama Muni, had left and gone to renunciation, and she was feeling alone and in need of spiritual guidance, and she turned to her son Kapila Dev. To the story of the entire earth planet being distressed, being cast into the waters that Varaha Dev needed to come and lift them out of, to Gajendra, to Prahlad Maharaj, to Dhruva Maharaj, to Ajamil. Canto after canto, story after story, devotees putting in conditions of extreme duress so that they can allow whatever superfluous circumstances they thought were so important to melt away and understand the essential message that I meant to receive. Right? That in times of emergencies, it brings out a spirit of cooperation that we may not otherwise volunteer for. And Srila Prabhupada's asking us to imbibe that spirit of cooperation without needing a seeming emergency. There is an emergency. There's an emergency for all of us. The world is on fire. Right? The world is on fire. Parikshit Maharaj knew he had 7 days to live. We don't know how much time we have. 7 days, 7 years, 7 decades, 7 seconds, 7 moments. Right? There's a great urgency that Srila Prabhupada is calling us to. And he's asking us as his followers, as his disciples and grand disciples, and for some of us grand disciples, to recognize that we are the people that are going out and trying to express that the world is on fire. We have to show a cooperation amongst ourselves as a spiritual family. as devotees recognizing that we have a higher mission, a higher purpose that we're being called to do in order to serve our Guru and our Guru Jana and our Guru's Guru and our Guru's Guru's Guru, Srila Prabhupada. And the last thing that I'll share is I just wanted to reference Srila Prabhupada's prayers aboard the Jaladuta that very much convey a similar mood. Srila Prabhupada, and we'll just read them because they're so potent. Why not read Prabhupada's words? Prayers on the Jaladuta. This is my most yeah. O Krishna, although I have been ordered to accomplish this mission, I possess no qualification to do it. Being very fallen and incapable, since you are the wisest of all, I now beg your mercy so that I may become worthy. If by receiving your potency I obtain the treasured object of service to Sri Guru and my life becomes thus successful, I'll become joyful and by good fortune attain your association. There was another here. Yeah, this is it. This is so beautiful. Let's see. Down here, yeah. Markini Bhagavat Dharma. Most of the population is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion, absorbed in material life. They think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? O Lord, I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. Keep in mind, Srila Prabhupada has not even touched down on American soil yet. He's still on a boat where he had 2 heart attacks and wasn't even sure if he would make it across the sea, carrying these same volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam that we just read from, not knowing what he's stepping into, realizing the mammoth task in front of him. All living entities have become under the control of your illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will, they can become released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. And then he quotes a long passage from Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And then he says, somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure. O spiritual master of the worlds, I can simply repeat your message, so if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for them. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I'm sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their heart, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. O Lord, I'm just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance and make me dance, O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I've been designated as Bhakti Vedanta, and now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhakti Vedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami, on board the ship Jaladuta, Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, United States of America, dated 18th of September, 1965. So Srila Prabhupada, in his own private prayers in his Bengali language, not intending anyone to ever even read these, is expressing this sentiment of a feeling of personal inadequacy that is lifted up by faith in Krishna. Right? That's communicated in his purport of the 11th verse of the 5th chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This faith in Krishna's words, and this call to action for all of us to recognize the tremendous gift that we have and the service responsibility we have to love each other the way that Srila Prabhupada loved us. Because what we're trying to do as devotees, to practice our devotional service and to share Krishna Bhakti with others, it's not some material transaction. It's not that there's some organizational strategy that we're going to put together that's going to allow us to make the Hare Krishna movement successful. There was nothing logical about what Srila Prabhupada did. But yet, Krishna worked through him in miraculous and beautiful ways. And similarly, Krishna can act through us in miraculous and beautiful ways if we carry on this spirit of recognizing that despite all of our faults, despite my own faults and despite the seeming faults in other people, if I choose to focus on those faults, I'll simply get lost in them. But if I choose to see the sincerity, the spark that is within each and every living being, then I can align myself with the energy and frequency that Srila Prabhupada was vibrating on. And I can allow myself to come into that flow of grace and become a conduit of Srila Prabhupada's mercy and experience Srila Prabhupada so deeply in our lives, so that when we read his books, when we, having not even many of us have met Srila Prabhupada, we can feel his presence very deeply in our lives by carrying on his mood and by extending his love and compassion to all of his devotees and grand devotees and members of our society and Guru Jana and God family. So thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for giving us this wonderful gifts. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for having such tremendous, extraordinary faith. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for never giving up on any of us. And thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for making your thoroughly honest attempt to bring this pure message of the Bhagavad to all of us so that we can understand what it means to witness bhakti in its deepest, most profound expression. Hare Krishna, Hare Om Tat Sat, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I didn't leave any time for questions or discussions. I'm so sorry. There was just a lot I wanted to get to share about Srila Prabhupada, but we do have 2 minutes left. If somebody would like to share something, make a correction, make an observation, ask a question, I'd love to hear from devotees. Ananda Bihari, over to you.
Thank you, Dayal Gauranga, for a wonderful class. Thank you for channeling Srila Prabhupada's mercy so nicely in this class. A question. We understand that Srila Prabhupada was empowered by Guru and Krishna in everything he did in the West and in India and throughout his life. But then, is there an example in Srila Prabhupada's life where he would adjust his initial approach based on the feedback and result he was receiving? In other words, was he how practical and maybe calculative was Srila Prabhupada in his preaching in his life?
Yeah, I mean, you can give a whole seminar just on that topic. There are so many times that Srila Prabhupada do. I mean, one example is even on the principle of Varnashram Dharma. At the very beginning of Prabhupada's outreach efforts, his preaching movement, he preached that Vaishnavas are beyond Varnashram Dharma, right? And he didn't emphasize that principle so heavily. And as he started to build his society, he realized, like, wait a minute, these people need some social structure. I'm not dealing with pure Vaishnavas here. And he started to institute more. Prabhupada mentioned at the end of his life that half my mission is unfulfilled, was the establishment of Varnashram Dharma. And there's a story that I've heard that even one devotee was arguing with Srila Prabhupada on his own literatures at the beginning of his writings. Like, Prabhupada, you mentioned that Vaishnavas are above Varnashram Dharma. And Srila Prabhupada saying, that was then, this is what I'm saying now. Like, Prabhupada would adjust accordingly to see the time and the circumstances and recognizing that what's needed. There's a famous story I've told many times in different classes when Srila Prabhupada was speaking about his inclusion of women in his movement, women living in the temple, women being initiated, being pujaris, which was very unorthodox, specifically in Indian culture. And Srila Prabhupada said, I've made this adjustment in my movement. And one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, what's the difference between making an adjustment and breaking a principle? Right? Like, how do you know how to navigate that? And Srila Prabhupada paused and said, that requires a little intelligence. And of course, when we know intelligence, we know how is intelligence defined in the Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tvam jena mamupayantite. I give the buddhi, the intelligence, by which to come to me. And so when we're intimately united with Krishna through service, in this mood that Srila Prabhupada exhibited, of I just want to carry out your will. Why did Krishna make Prabhupada such a puppet in his hands? Because he could trust Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada wasn't seeking anything other than to carry out Krishna's will. If he empowered Prabhupada, it wasn't going to get used for... If Krishna empowered... How trustworthy are we really if Krishna fully empowered us? Is there some sense of like... What, I would... So many things. Right? Prabhupada had no trace of ego, false ego. And so in that spirit, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tvam, Krishna can give the empowerment to understand the higher principle, right? Of how to adjust something according to give somebody what they need in Krishna consciousness. So there are many, many examples, and that's just a little bit of the principle, for sure. Srila Prabhupada was only attached to giving people Krishna.
Thank you. Bhagya is asking, what is Varnashram Dharma?
What about
Sanatana
Sanatan
Dharma.
Dharma? What about Sanatan Dharma? Yeah, Srila Prabhupada understood Sanatan Dharma. What about Sanatan Dharma? That's another question as well. But Prabhupada understood Jivara Swarupahoy Krishna de Nityadhas, that the eternal nature of every living being was to be a servant of Krishna. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, when he answered a question about your mission, what is religion? He said, religion is to know God and to love Him. Right? To know God and to love Him. And so, Prabhupada understood that Sanatan Dharma is not a set of rules and rituals, but Sanatan Dharma is an expression of the heart for a devotee to give themselves towards Krishna, and he wanted to invoke that in people, that sentiment, however he could.
Thank you, Dayal Gauranga. Prabhu, Jani Tai Prabhu, thank you for lovingly carrying us. Okay. It's darshan time. We're going to be seen by the Lord. Dear devotees, please put on your best look. Turn on the camera if you can.
Angayasya sakala Avitimanti Asyanti Kanti Kayanti Yanti Rajmaya Sadhu Phala Vigrasya Govinda Mani Purusha Hari Purusha Ami Gauranga Hari Purusha Ami Gauranga Hari Purusha Ama Ambagami Govinda Hari Purusha Ama Ambagami Govinda Hari Purusha Govinda Hari Purusha Govinda Hari Purusha You see Radha Lila Gaur Chanjan Sarvara ki Srila Prabhupada ki The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. And now, since he is great awe and reverence, by his grace one can cross the ocean and tear suffering and obtain mercy of Krishna. My only wish is that my cousin.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. Wonderful class. Are you going back to bed to catch up on your sleeping, Seva?
I would, but I have another appointment at 9 o'clock, so I'm going to stay up.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, we're all here. Dayal Gauranga Prabhu is here giving class, and we're here receiving the Bhagavatam because of Srila Prabhupada's faith in the instruction of his guru and Srila Prabhupada's trust that the process of chanting Hare Krishna together works in this day and age. We all need structure, but that structure is rooted in Sanatan Dharma, which is chanting Hare Krishna and being happy. Hare Krishna, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. Thank you. Everyone on this call, have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
It's a great day to reconnect with Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Take care. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.